say amen again. Amen. Hold to God's unchanging hand. The same hand that will pull you up out of the storm.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Thank you, Lord.
Today's sermon is entitled, Follow the God-Inspired Plan That Is Best for You.
Yes, amen.
And it's coming from John chapter 7, verses 1 through 3. And it reads, After this, Jesus went around in Galilee, purposely staying away from Judea, because the Jews there were waiting to take his life. But when the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles was near, Jesus' brothers said to him, You ought to leave here and go to Judea, so that your disciples may see the miracles that you do. As I've heard Pastor Lancaster say before, I've preached on this before, but it's going to come from a different perspective today. Amen. I want to thank Pastor Lancaster for giving me the opportunity to practice again. I can use all the practice I can get. At this time, Lord, please allow me to decrease so that you may increase. And I pray to deliver this message to your people the way you want me to. Amen. After this, Jesus went around Galilee, purposely staying away from Judea, because the Jews there were waiting to take his life. Is there anyone here today who has selected a certain place where they purposely stay away from, because if you travel there or even visit for a day or an hour, you could potentially lose your dignity, your earnings, your family, your life, or even your soul. A place where you have made a conscious decision not to revisit, knowing your history there, and keeping in mind your desire to stay out of harm's way. I think we all have a place like that. Well, Jesus made a similar decision. Jesus knew that the Jews, the Pharisees in Jerusalem, meant only harm for him and intended to kill him. He knew that it was wise and safer to stay in the area of Galilee for the present time to preserve his life than to travel to the area of Judea, because the time had not yet come for him to be crucified on the cross. He was fully aware of his history in the region of Judea and everything he had experienced while traveling in the towns of Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Bethany, and Jericho when he made this decision. It was in Jerusalem where the Pharisees were angry with him because he made a whip out of cords to clear the temple courts and overturn the table of money changers, because he found them selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and people exchanging money. The Jews demanded that Jesus provide some kind of miraculous sign that proved he had authority to clear the temple courts the way he did. It was in Jerusalem where Jesus was persecuted for healing the paralytic who was paralyzed for 38 years on the Sabbath. It was in Jerusalem, the area of Judea, where the Jews tried hard to kill Jesus for claiming to be the Son of God and making himself equal with God. And it was some of the Pharisees from Judea and Jerusalem who were present and a witness when Jesus healed the paralytic that was lowered through the roof in front of him by his friends, and accused him of blasphemy when he said to the man, Friend, your sins are forgiven. Jesus also knew the mindset of the people who lived in the area of Judea and how they attempted to slander his name and discredit him so the people would not believe that he was the Messiah. It was the people of Jericho in the area of Judea and the Pharisees and teachers of the law who complained that Jesus eats, drinks, and congregates with sinners and tax collectors. It was in Jerusalem in the temple courts where the chief priests teachers of the law, and elders asked him questions about by whose authority was he operating. And they sent spies to ask him questions to try to catch him saying something bad about the government. For example, in Luke chapter 20, verse 22, they asked Jesus, is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Just to see what he would say. And last but not least, it was the teachers of the law who came down from Jerusalem, who even went as far as to accuse Jesus of being demon-possessed by Beelzebub, saying that by the prince of demons, he drove out demons. With his history and experience in his mind, as well as his knowledge of what was to come, he made the conscious, final decision to purposely stay in Galilee, away from the region of Judea, to do what was right for him, and to stay on his spiritual assignment to do the will of the Father who sent him. Some time passes by, and now the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles is near, and his brothers decide to bring a new proposal to Jesus that they feel would benefit his life. They present an option or path that they believe Jesus should follow. They propose a plan to him which seems to be a genuine suggestion at first glance, but when you look a little deeper into it, it doesn't seem to be within Jesus' best interest, considering his modest and humble character, the spiritual assignment he was on, his history and experiences in Judea, and the intention of the Jews, Pharisees that intended to kill him if they encountered him again. His younger brothers proposed to Jesus. They said, you should leave here, Galilee, and go to Judea, where the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles would take place, so that your disciples may see the miracles that you do. No one who wants to become a public figure acts in secret. Since you are doing these things, show yourself to the world. His brothers basically advised Jesus to return to Judea so that he may use miracles to impress man so they would follow him, obtain the status of a public figure so he would become famous, and then be recognized or receive credit for all the miracles that he had performed. Jesus wasn't about any of that. His brothers proposed a plan for Jesus with an incorrect assumption in mind. They assumed Jesus performed miracles because he wanted to be a public figure, not because he was actually God who had compassion on the masses and wanted to deliver and save people from their illnesses and sins. In verse 5 of this text, it states, "For even his own brothers did not believe in him." For even his own brothers did not truly know his character or believe in his spiritual assignment. Jesus was modest and humble and had no desire to become famous or receive accolades from man. He did not and he does not accept the testimony of man. For in John chapter 2, verses 24 through 25, it states, "But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all men. He did not need man's testimony about man, for he knew what was inside of a man." In addition, as Jesus read the scroll of the prophet Isaiah in Luke chapter 4, Jesus himself said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." That was Jesus' purpose behind the miracles he performed. He never desired to be like a politician or seeking the approval of man. But the question is, how could we expect Jesus' brothers to propose the best plan for him? They didn't have Jesus' insight. They couldn't propose an adequate plan for Jesus, which considered different variables or elements in his life, because only Jesus knew who he really was. His divinity, his spiritual assignment, his history on earth, his history in heaven, the miracles he performed, the places he had been, the conversations he had, the resistance he faced, the slanderous remarks and accusations he encountered, and the Father's ultimate will for him. Only Jesus with the will and guidance of the Father in mind, was capable of creating an adequate plan for himself that would preserve his life and enable him to complete his spiritual assignment, because he, not them, was aware of all of his experiences. Jesus may have allowed his brothers to offer their advice. He wasn't rude. He didn't stop them from talking. He let them talk. But at the end of the conversation, he made the decision that he was going to stick to the original God-inspired plan that was created for him, because his original plan was going to preserve his life and keep him out of harm's way for the moment, as well as enable him to stay in alignment with God's assignment for him. He assertively told his brothers in John chapter 7, verses 6 through 8, "The right time for me has not yet come. For you, any time is right. Any time is good. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me, because I testify that what it does is evil. You go to the feast. I am not going up to this feast, because for me, the right time has not yet come." Jesus' actions are such a huge lesson for us today, including myself, and for any child that sits in this sanctuary, for right now when they go back to school, and in the future when they grow older. When you have made up your mind that you are going to follow a specific course of action inspired by God, because it will improve your mental or physical health, bring you closer to God, or enable you to maintain a good relationship with your friends and family, or provide a legitimate source of income for your family, you are not to let anyone sway you in a different direction that is not good for you. You don't have to follow someone else's advice or plan for your life if their plan is not in the best interest of your health, your financial well-being, your needs for your family, or it will not enable you to fulfill whatever spiritual assignment God placed on your mind and on your heart. People provide advice for different reasons, and those reasons may not always be in your best interest. Sometimes those reasons may be in the best interest of the person who's talking to you. In addition, as we notice in this text, sometimes people may mean well when they provide advice, but their advice may be based on incorrect assumptions about you. So how can you follow their plan if they don't even have all the necessary facts about you or your life? No one in this world knows you like you. And God knows you better than you know yourself. Therefore, you are completely capable of praying for assistance from God to make positive, realistic plans for yourself that will yield positive results. You know your character, you know your talents, you know your weaknesses, you know your strengths. You know your history, you know the experience you faced while you were living here on God's green earth, regardless of how old you are. And you know what God told you to do while you were here on earth. You know the decisions you made in the past that have caused you to be covered in mud and or quicksand, and which led you to act out unhealthy habits that only God was able to get you out of. So therefore, you don't need anyone else's advice or plans for your life. You know what will happen if you go to McDonald's tonight, because it's a quick and convenient way for you to get food right after you made up your mind to reduce your salt and sugar intake for the week so that you wouldn't have diabetes or high blood pressure. You know what would happen if you join your friends at the bar for a social hour after you have already made up your mind that you were going to finish the AA program. And you know what could potentially happen if you go to this party that the sorority is giving tonight, but you got an exam 8 a.m. in the morning, and you already made out a study plan. Last but not least, You know who has always been for you and who has always been against you. Just as Jesus knew the mindset of the Pharisees. Who has been in your corner and tried to lift you up, and those who slander your name or try to muddy your reputation. So it's time for you not only to stay away from the places that have caused you harm in the past, but stay away from the people who have tried to bring you down or can't see your talent or your value. Draw near to those who see your value and have only tried to encourage you to do better. With all this knowledge and information at your fingertips of who you are and where you have been, as well as the pain and the joy you experienced during your life, you ask God to direct your path and to not follow anyone else's plans for your life that is contrary to the path or plan God set before you, so that you may heal and prosper and grow, no matter who it is. And I'm saying that because sometimes we share our vision with families or friends and they may not agree. But you do what is right for you as long as you're not harming someone else. Other people don't have to understand what you're doing or why you're doing it. So if it contributes to your betterment, if it's within the will of God, and if it helps you keep complete your spiritual assignment that God gave you, and you're sure of it, and it's been working for you, it's been giving you positive results, you keep doing what you need to do. And last but not least, you don't need anyone else's approval. It took me a long time to understand that. You don't need anyone else's approval. Do not try to please anyone else. It's very exhausting when you try to please other people. There's this songwriter, his name is Jonathan McReynolds, I believe, or Jonathan Reynolds, and he said, comparison kills.